Shut up and sit down.
Our guest today spent 6 seasons in the National Football League as a quarterback. He played for the Cowboys, Dolphins, and Patriots. Prior to that, he was an all-ACC quarterback at Virginia. Today, he is Senior Regional Manager for Partner Development for Positive Coaching Alliance, a national nonprofit that focuses on developing kids through sports done right. Scott Secules, welcome to the Quarterback Room.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate you having me.
Let's just start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about the Positive Coaching Alliance. What is it exactly?
Well, PCA is a national nonprofit that was founded on the Stanford campus a little over 20 years ago with the idea that the platform of youth sports is there. It's a great opportunity to teach character with that platform. The fields are there, the leagues are there, the organizations are there. If someone like Positive Coaching Alliance can help people do it the right way, then sports can have a great impact on the kids, far more than just winning or losing games, but really take advantage of the teachable moments and to develop them into the type of young people we want in our families, in our communities, in our society.
We hear in high school programs about character curriculum. Is this what that is?
It is a tool. It's a piece of one of those. I think, but the fun part about PCA is that we realized over the years is to establish this culture of positivity, this development zone, if you will, with the goal of developing kids, is that it truly takes a village. It takes the leaders of the organization, it takes the coaches, it takes the parents, and the athletes themselves have a role. So it's character development, it's tactics, it's sports psychology, it's educational psychology, I think with a goal of providing an atmosphere for the best possible performance and the best possible experience for all those involved.
How did you first become acquainted with them, and what led you to be a part of the team?
Well, I was transitioning from a job in college athletics in Virginia back to the Dallas area. My wife had, as a matter of fact, lost her father, and her mom is still here in the Dallas area and was alone at the time. So we came back to the area, and in that transition, a friend introduced me to PCA. That was all I got. Look into this at PCA. Had no idea what it stood for or anything like that. And the more I learned, the more the message resonated with me.
How long has PCA been around?
It was founded in 1998. So we're celebrating our 21st year, and it was born in the hallways of the Stanford gym. You know, one of our founder, a gentleman named Jim Thompson, was teaching in the Stanford School of Business, Graduate School of Business, and having a poor experience with his son's baseball. His young son's baseball experience. And Jim's background was in education and in special needs education, and he saw how those kids responded to what he termed relentless positivity. So in true Stanford fashion, let's figure this out. How can we bring that relentless positivity to youth sports and create this platform that teaches lessons and not just teaches the game?
I wonder how many things have been born out of a parent sitting in the stands at a youth athletic event.
Well, let's hope more good than bad, right? But I think we hear lots of horror stories about behavior issues and whatnot, and unfortunately, in today's news cycle, we hear the bad stuff.
Yeah,
we don't hear about those great parents that are supporting their kids, and those that are volunteering their time to be the coaches and be the league leaders. Those people are silently in the background, and the ones that grab the attention are the fights in the parking lot, or getting ejected for screaming at a young 18-year-old ref or something silly like that.
We always say the kids are never a problem. It's the parents that muck it up a little bit.
Well, one of our trainers had a great line. She said, what's wrong with youth sports? Youth sports parents. So, and I think that's a neat part of our curriculum is that we've identified those pain points, and where we have those issues and how we can help coaches and how we can help parents and how we can educate the kids to really all understand their role in this sports culture, in creating this positive atmosphere that not only teaches the game and will make you good on the field, but off the field as well. As our tagline says, better athletes and better people.
Well, I know this is a broad question, but talk a little bit about what the basic principles are behind the Positive Coaching Alliance.
Well, I think, the underlying principles kind of would fall on the fact that under the basic premise that youth sports is a time to develop kids. So we're trying to cultivate this development zone culture and we've got jobs and tasks for all the key audiences. So any youth sports organization is made up of a leadership, coaches, parents, and athletes. And what we figured out is that each, if they do their job and everybody kind of is working together and rowing in the same direction, then you can really affect culture. And then you create that positive atmosphere that allows the kids to not only perform at their highest level, but have a great experience and learn those life lessons as well as learning the games. So we have a role for our leaders. We call them single goal leaders. Their job is to establish, communicate, and defend the culture, period. What we find today, and this is true in school athletic directors as well as youth league boards, is so much of what they do is administrative. It's dotting I's and crossing T's. It's budgets. It's equipment. It's bus schedules. It's paying the officials. It's field space rentals. And they get to the end of their meeting, and in a school setting, the bell rings and all the teachers have to go back to class, and they haven't had a chance to talk about culture. They haven't got a chance to be intentional about how they do it. It's what they do, and it's administrative. So we really task our leaders to really look at trying to set the tone with that culture. It's up to them to do it because Lord knows we have lots of pressures on these youth sports organizations and schools, things like professional sports, which is all about entertainment and winning. Division I college sports is quickly becoming that. It's big business. It's all about winning or you get fired. It's not strive to win and teach life lessons. So, the task is on that with the leaders. Our coach model, very simply, we call them a double goal coach. So much of what is in today's society is win at all cost. You either win or you don't have a job. You win or I don't want you to be my coach. What we've learned is that it's important to be competitive. We're all very competitive. Everybody at PCA has all played at various levels. We're all competitive, so we want to win. But what separates us from that win-at-all-cost coach is the second part of it, which is strive to win and teach life lessons and build character. And when push comes to shove, in our opinion, the life lessons and the character piece is more important than winning games. And that's challenging in some markets. In some markets, it's all about winning. There's lots of competition to win. But we really feel like in that situation, the life lessons part is more important. You mentioned my background at Virginia. I started my first football game at the University of Virginia when the starting quarterback got caught out after curfew on Thursday night. I got a call to be in George Welsh's office, College Football Hall of Famer, to be in Coach Welsh's office at 9 o'clock Friday morning, which is normally never a good thing, not a good phone call to get in your apartment. And so I roll in there on Friday morning, and he tells me, hey, starters got suspended. You're going to start tomorrow at noon against North Carolina. I found out about 27 hours before the game. And to Coach's credit, he had seniors in his office saying, no, let him play. Let the guy play. Don't suspend him. And Coach stuck to his guns, and we threw it to the tight end and the running backs enough that we beat North Carolina the next day with a quarterback that wasn't supposed to. So that little particular piece of our double goal coach model really resonates with me. Maybe one of the most important things, and we've already laughed about the parents, is our role that the parents play in this development zone culture. And we call our parent model a second goal parent. And we want those parents to reinforce the teachable moments. If you think back to the coaching model, strive to win and teach life lessons. Well, imagine the looks on a group of parents' faces when you look at them and say, hey, you have nothing to do with the winning part. That is the coaches and the kids' responsibility. And our experience has shown all of us that when the coaches and the kids get joined by the parents in that winning or competing part, that's when we have issues. That's when we get a parent that's got their nose where it shouldn't be. So we try to remind the parents that the best thing for you to do is reinforce the teachable moments, to support your kids, to be there for them. The greatest thing you can tell them is, I loved watching you play today. Not, boy, you sure threw it bad today. You threw it to the other team 3 times. What were you thinking about? That's really counterproductive to what we're trying to do. So educating those parents, a funny little issue. We did some research with college-age student athletes, and their worst memory of their high school and youth sports experience was the car ride home. You think about that for a second. When I tell a group of parents that, it gets really quiet in the room because everybody realizes that they're probably at one time or another an offender. So if we can educate the parents as to what their role is to create this best atmosphere and to remind them that the kids have a coach, the game has an official. That's not what we're asking our parents to do. It provides a little clarity. And I think we end up getting kids that are better supported, that keeps them in the game, that gets everybody on the same page, because then the parent and the kid both have their goals laid out. It's amazing to me to see situations where in a middle schooler, you got parents that are looking forward to college scholarships, and if you ask the daughter why she's playing volleyball, her answer is, I want to have fun and be with my friends. That's not a bad thing, but it's an opportunity for a great conversation over the dinner table. So the parent piece is key, and then what developed over time as PCA started in youth sports and those kids got to high school, we realized that they start having a bigger role in their culture. And so we developed an athlete model called our triple impact competitor. We want our kids to make themselves better, their teammates better, and the game better. You know, and you start thinking about it in life lesson pieces. You fast forward those kids from high school 20 years until they're young professionals and married folks, and they're always going to have to give great effort. They have opportunities to learn every day and make themselves better, and they're always going to be a part of something bigger than themselves and have a chance to really make the game better and make their community better. So those kind of things join together. We create a common set of terms. You know, everybody understands what each other's role is. And I think when you see that, then we really see affected culture.
So you talk about three fairly distinguishable areas with the athletes, the parents, and the coaches. But one of the things we see, you know, and that certainly holds in a high school or a middle school, but then we get into the unique dynamic of my dad's my coach.
Right.
You know, recreational sports, even select sports. And clearly now you've got a parent who is a coach who has to drive the bus, but yet is supposed to only help fuel the bus. So what is the dynamic there? How does PCA deal with that dynamic?
With the coaching your own child is a really unique part of youth sports, and we run into that in just about every workshop. Some coach will wander up and kind of wait in the sideline and come up and say, okay, I coach my own child. I think that property lines are very important in that one, Bill. That's a tough dynamic to wear the dad hat and the coach hat at the same time. I know one of the real common practices is to have an assistant coach be the interactor with your child. You can coach the rest of them, but when it's time to critique or coach, have the assistant coach come in and help with that. I think it's real important to understand those boundaries too, that, you know, on the practice field, it's coach, you know, it's not dad. And then in the car, you transition, and that's hard on both the front seat and the back seat, is to transition from, you know, the dynamic of being a coach on the field to jumping in the car, and as soon as the door shuts, you're dad again or your mom again. And I think that's a big challenge. We have lots of resources dedicated to that exact topic on our Development Zone Resource Center. It's amazing how popular those are, that parents that are struggling with coaching their own child, you know, because it's dad was hard on me. Well, it's the coach on the field, and really clarifying those, because it's one thing for dad to understand it, but the child has to understand it too.
You talk about the ride home. I'd love to say I've never been guilty of that, but my favorite comedian, Ron White, talks about the time he was arrested in the bar in New York and said the officer told him, you have the right to remain silent. And he said, yes, but I don't have the ability to remain silent. Well, it's the same thing driving home. We all know better, but we just can't help ourselves sometimes. You know, we have, you know, what were you thinking?
Right.
You know, I could list 100 questions. What other mistakes like that would parents make, you know, that would really, you know, I guess deflate the balloon instead of inflate it?
I think that one of the first things we try to establish with the parents is just the realization that it's not about them anymore. You know, so many of us are using youth sports as a chance to relive our golden days, right? When we were that player, and so we get caught up in it, and perspective is blurred. So I think understanding first and foremost that it's not about us. I think secondly, and we mentioned earlier, what are my goals for my child and what are my child's goals? That's a very important thing to understand. And those things change. You know, it might be that when your child first starts playing and they're playing flag football and they're just learning to wing it around and throw it and catch it, that they want to have fun. That's the most important thing. And fast forward 7 or 8 years and they want to go play Division I college football. Well, it's our job as parents to facilitate what they, or try to help what they want out of it, to do our best to put them in a position to reach their goals, right? That's what we hope the coaches are doing as well. So we're in this together. And I think if the parents understand that and then they understand how to do their job better, that's a key. You know, I think we have a lot of very successful parents that they get a little too caught up in winning, quite frankly, in youth sports. And these kids are not going to remember if they went undefeated 25 years from now. What they will remember is the negative situation that drove them from the game. You know, whether it's a negative coach, whether it's too many of those car ride homes, and the dreaded PGA, which is in PCA parlance, the post-game analysis. You know, that's the kind of thing they will remember. You know, in our house, our son played basketball and soccer and football and all that growing up, and got involved in a baseball league, and there were 5 dads at practice, all screaming and yelling different things. And he came home and told us one night, I said, Dad, I'm not having any fun. Do I have to go? Well, you know, I very quickly thrust my chest out and said, we don't quit in the Secules house. And then later that night, we had a conversation across the pillows that were like, what are we going to do? And ultimately, we heeded that. You know, and he wasn't having any fun, and that's what he wanted to have, is fun and be with his friends. And so those 5 loud dads cost our son the opportunity to play the game of baseball. And I love the game of baseball. I was a quarterback in the league before I was a quarterback longer than I was a catcher. You know, so I have a lot of pride for that game and a lot of love for that game. And the fact that it cost my little guy a chance to keep playing it hurts.
Yeah. You talk about the yelling dads. My oldest son had a couple of coaches in high school that were screamers. And I remember as a quarterback, you know, you walking that fine line between, you know, the line. It's a difficult line. But he had a tough practice and had been the subject of a lot of that screaming one day. And he came home, and I said, how was practice? He goes, well, it wasn't a great day. He said, I was the object of a whole lot of screaming and ranting today. And I said, well, what did they say? And he goes, I don't know. I just quit listening to it. You know, you get enough of it, you just don't hear it anymore. And I think that's part of the challenge, too, that the tone, you know, winds up determining whether the kids are even listening to you or not.
Well, and I think what we have seen and what we use in some of our workshops, Bill, is the research that's been done on positivity lately. And you know, and there's Mary Fry at the University of Kansas is actually doing sports psychology research on a caring climate. 15 years ago, you'd never put those words together with sports.
Yeah.
But what they're finding is exactly as you said. When a coach goes negative, it distracts the kids from what you're asking them to focus on, and they tune it out. Or they're not in a position to make an impact on the most important play, which is the next one. You know, the younger kids especially will, a mistake sticks to them like Velcro. You know, they make a mistake, they're embarrassed by it, they sit there, and all they can think about is the negative thing that just happened. What we try to do is arm the coaches with the tools to get them out of that, to get them past a mistake, and maybe more importantly, to allow them to make a mistake. You know, so much of the way we were raised in a militaristic coaching environment, coach says, do something, you say yes, sir, and do it, or you run a lap, or you do up downs and dusty fields and, you know, get that cotton mouth. But, you know, what we're finding is that this positive stuff allows the kids to, the positive environments, the positive language, the positive body language, allows the kids to operate at a higher level and keeps them ready for the next play. You know, we're allowing them to make a mistake, and we're teaching them how to learn from that mistake and be ready for the next play, not dwell on the mistake and not be ready for the next snap or the next pitch. You know, and that kind of thing puts the kids in control. You know, when they're in control because they control their effort. You know, we try to cultivate a learning spirit, a growth mindset. They can control that, and you put them in a position where I can make a mistake. I'm not going to get pulled out of the game just for dribbling it off my foot or throwing a bad pass. You know, I get a chance to go out there, learn from it, and be ready to do it the next time. And I think that's so powerful.
Well, and we know in business that, you know, there's a big difference in having people focus on not doing something wrong versus focusing on the preferred outcome, because we know, especially in a industrial environment, the more you try to focus on not making a mistake, the more likely you are to make that mistake.
Certainly.
Because you can only focus on one thing, and you're focusing. I had an example a long time ago that we used. If you go down a sidewalk, they've got the little lines where there's separations. We call it the crack. And if you walk and you try to avoid the cracks, sooner or later you will step on the crack because you're focused on the cracks.
Right. And
I really see that in youth sports. The way we coach tends, good or bad, our kids wind up becoming, I guess influence is not a strong enough word, but they almost become victims of the coaching style. And it may not be immediate, but it's long term. The players always reflect the coaches.
Well, and I think, so that gets into a couple things that we typically coach like we were coached. We coached for guys we played for guys that were face mask grabbers and screamers and yellers, and we didn't have those cool, clear plexiglass shields, so we got spit in the face.
My coach's favorite saying back then was, "Get up, you're killing the grass."
So, but what we try to do, and so much of a society measures success on the scoreboard, and what we try to convey to these coaches is that the psychology behind it is that if you focus on effort versus the result, the process takes care of it. The effort and that mastery model takes care of it and will make you better on the field. So we have an easy coaching point that we use, and we call it the elm tree of mastery. And we try to teach this mastery model because society today measures everything on the scoreboard. So you got the kids focusing on only what the results say. In those settings, kids tend to compare themselves to others. Wow, that team's bigger than we are. We can't beat them. That kid's a great pitcher, or that quarterback's awesome and the receiver's great. We're never going to win this game. And in that situation where you're focused 100% on the scoreboard, a mistake tends to impact the scoreboard, right? It gives up a touchdown, gives up runs, whatever. It's going to have a negative impact on that. And the kids also relate making a mistake to getting pulled. If I dribble it off my foot and I look at the scores table, the kid's getting up and running to midcourt to check me out of the game. Well, I'm never going to dribble with my left hand again, because if it went off my foot one time, I want to play. So I'm going to start playing tentatively. In quarterback world, that means, heck, I'm throwing it to the running back. I'm not going to try to throw the seam down to the tight end, even though it's wide open and the safeties are a mile apart. I'm going to throw the check down and keep throwing the check down, because it's safe and I'm playing guarded. Well, if we can cultivate this mastery model, all we ask is to give great effort. We ask to have a learning spirit and a growth mindset, and we allow them to make a mistake because they're going to learn from the mistake and get better. Those are things the kids can control. It's Belichick 101, control the controllables, right? Yeah. Put yourself in that position and you look at it. Can the kids control the scoreboard? No. Can they control their effort? 100% of the time. And then that makes us as coaches have to change a little bit about how we do it, because we want to be noticers of that effort. In practice or in drills, when one kid gives great effort, we want to single them out. We want to talk to them, because the old sociology behind it, I passed Soc 101 at Virginia a long time ago. Social learning theory shows us that people do what gets recognized, and that really applies with the kids. So if you're at practice and you say one kid's name, the kid next to him goes, well, hold it, how do I get my name? Well, if I give great effort in the drill, coach is going to mention me too, and that gets contagious. Yep. And then all of a sudden you got a team giving great effort, and the process behind it will make you better on the field. Something as simple as our little elm tree, effort, learning, and mistakes are okay, makes you better.
Well, that's great stuff. As we begin to wind down, tell me a little bit about how PCA would typically partner with a league or a school district.
Well, Bill, what we typically do is we reach out to leagues, all different sports. We do schools and school districts. We get a chance to sit down and have a conversation with the leadership of those groups and really kind of talk about their pain points. What are they seeing? What kind of professional development in a school setting? What kind of professional development are they providing for their coaches on the how to coach piece, not the what to coach? What we find in a school setting is that they'll go to clinics. They'll go to listen to Tom Herman talk about his offense, or go to Alabama and learn this defense or something like that. There's lots of resources to do that, but there's not anybody really doing a lot of training on the how to coach, how to communicate, how to motivate, those sort of things. So we'll figure that out. We also always kind of ask the question and get to look at their poker face when we ask them about their parents. As you can imagine, I get some great looks back across desks right there. And then I think what they're doing for their athletes. And as you mentioned, a lot of programs now have character development programs, and how is what we do complement that, or go along with it, or be a part of that, or maybe start something for a school district that doesn't have that, or a league that doesn't have it. We figure out what they'd like to do. We look at finances. We don't cover our costs for this as a nonprofit, so that's why part of our job is being fundraisers as well in the nonprofit world. But we have a fee-for-service partnership piece that a group would buy a partnership or invest in a partnership with Positive Coaching Alliance. We come in and work with them for a 12-month period. We execute our workshops. We help them with their messaging. We make sure we're providing positive reinforcement to everything they do all year long, and not just blessing them with one workshop and saying, hey, it's going to magically cure you. Understanding that character change takes time.
Excellent. So if someone is interested in learning more about Positive Coaching Alliance, how can they get in touch with you?
They can go through our website at positivecoach.org, positivecoach.org, or they can reach out to me on my cell phone, which is 214-449-3770. I'd love to talk to them about it.
That's great. Scott Secules with the Positive Coaching Alliance. Great to have you with us today, and we hope to be able to have some of your content on our platform as well. So there'll be some good information about how to do these things you've talked about today.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.